Hey everybody, and welcome to Twin Talk, a video discussion show where twin brothers Chris and Kevin drink and draw. We're talking about comic books, movies, and all things pop culture. We are your hosts, Chris Hart,
Kevin Hart.
and today we're going to be talking about The Amazing Spider-Man.
You know why they call him the Amazing Spider-Man?
Why?
Because he's amazing. Stick around to the end of the episode to see how our drawing of the Lizard came out. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel for more content.
The Amazing Spider-Man is a film directed by Mark Webb in the year 2012. Shortly after, they panned the Sam Raimi trilogy. There was supposed to be a Spider-Man 4 with Ben Kingsley playing the Vulture, and Sam Raimi had all these plans for it. But 3 wasn't well received. They ended up rebooting it, and we get Andrew Garfield, hot off of The Social Network, to play Spider-Man here. And I remember being super excited about this movie, especially when they released that first image when he's got like his backpack. He's in the Spider-Man outfit, like it's all like battle damaged, like ripped from the Lizard, and they announced that the Lizard was going to be the villain. I was like, all right, cool, something fresh, something different, because we know that they had Dr. Connors in the Raimi trilogy, but they never did anything with him.
Never saw the light of day.
Yeah, so it was like, all right, finally, like they're going to bring this character to fruition. And I've always loved Lizard from the comic books and the cartoons from the 90s. So it would have been cool to see that live action. And when I first saw this movie, I remember really liking it at the time.
It's obviously a different interpretation. You know, Mark Webb, I think it's hilarious and ironic that his name's Webb and he's directing Spider-Man. But to me, it's like a more darker approach, more realistic approach. When I first saw it, I didn't like it, but upon rewatch, I kind of like grew to appreciate the different things that they did with it, because it's unfair to compare it to the Raimi trilogy. It's its own thing. Yeah. And there's a lot of things I do like about this movie. Peter and Gwen Stacy's chemistry, incredible. Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, I think they were even dating on set or in real life before or after or during this movie. It definitely shows in the production of this film because they're electric.
Another pro of this movie for me is the music. I loved the music from the Raimi trilogy, except for the third one, obviously. But to me, it was going to be hard to top that. So the composer in this one was James Horner. I remember buying the soundtrack on CD because I liked it that much, and I would put it in my Ford Focus drive to work, listen to it. And it had its own vibe to it, and I really liked it.
I also think that it's the most believable and most likable Aunt May and Uncle Ben we've ever seen. They're so like adorable. Not
to say that the Raimi trilogy's Uncle Ben and Aunt May weren't great, but like this, I remember seeing this and be like, all right, I connect with that. Maybe because they were a little bit younger.
They're not ancient and going to be dust in 2 minutes, and they're also not a hot MILF that doesn't even care about being a widow. So it's a nice balance.
You're talking about the Homecoming Aunt?
Yeah.
This iteration of Spider-Man, like, I get a lot of people hate on him because he was like too cool for Peter Parker.
He was,
and he was, but at the same time, this movie came out in 2012, so a nerd then was something different than even the 10 years prior in 2002, and definitely a different thing from the 60s. So it's like Spider-Man has to adapt to the times that he's in. So I can understand why they went that direction with him, especially since this director came from indie obscurity with 500 Days of Summer.
I thought it was a weaker death sequence of Uncle Ben.
But
Definitely weaker, but like it definitely had like its emotional weight.
This bug's right here.
There's a bug in it. I'm just going to catch it. Like, whoa! Yeah, there's a mosquito flying around. Where'd it go?
If I find it again.
And even Aunt May, the thing from the 90s cartoons and the comic books about like how he's got to deal with, like he doesn't want to make Aunt May afraid of, or be in danger because he's Spider-Man. I felt that a lot in this movie, especially when he's got the hood on. She's like, take off the damn... like Spider-Man's coming home late and he's trying to balance between his identity and his home life and stuff. So I appreciated that.
Besides him being too cool, like, do you like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, Peter Parker?
I like his Spider-Man. I think he's the best Spider-Man, but I prefer Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker because I like the cheese ball.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and because
takes one to know.
Because I'm lactose intolerant, you fools. but because I like that he was going through it. Like life really hit him hard. Like, and he was just trying to do the right thing. And this Peter, I just feel like he's just like
mopey.
He became ended bullying by becoming a bully. I didn't really appreciate that.
No, I get that.
He dunks on Eugene Flash Thompson.
Oh, that was gonna say too. I really like this like iteration of Flash Thompson. Because if they were to continue this franchise, because I know they had plans at the time to make like a giant Spider-Verse. Obviously, they had plans for Venom and all these different things. Black Cat. Do you remember that? They had like Black Cat, Silver Sable planned out, Morbius,
like a solo spin-off,
Venom, Spider-Man, all these 4 Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield.
I could see, look-wise, I could see this Flash Thompson becoming Agent
Venom. That's what I'm saying.
Down
like,
the line.
I could see him like growing into like the military guy, losing his legs, then becoming Agent Venom after we see, Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
Let me clear my throat real quick.
Let me clear my throat. Yeah, I 100% agree with that because I think even in the movie, there's little snippets of like he clearly has like troubled home life Flash, and he relates to that with Parker of why he's a bully, and they kind of do have a touching moment. So I could see him redeeming himself and becoming a huge fan of Spider-Man, this and that, going to war and dealing with PTSD and all that. But look-wise, you know, this dude was Deathstroke in the original ones. Joe Manganiello.
Yeah.
If they did Agent Venom movie with that,
now,
oh my goodness, because he got beefed up and he was Deathstroke in the DC universe. So like that
He was
kind of
supposed to be. We saw him for what, a millisecond?
yeah, exactly.
Saw him in one post-credit scene.
cameo in Justice League. I also appreciated the actual wrist web shooters as opposed to the organic web shooters. I always liked them because they're just so aesthetically pleasing. Plus, it showcases Peter's intelligence, and I did like how they showed him like kind of trial and error, him failing. You know, the webs going all over him,
All over his face
him
and
using
stuff,
it between Oscorp and everything. And it was just cool to see. Like it felt very violent every
Yeah,
time
yeah.
he used them. I was like, dang! I was like, that's coming out full speed.
Especially with the robber, like the carjacker. He's like shooting at, even at his nuts.
Hits him in the nuts with webbing.
Hits him in the crotch with it. And I love how Spider-Man even went like, he's like, crotch, and like lands in his face with his crotch. Like little things like that like make Andrew Garfield my favorite Spider-Man. This movie suffered from being in a post-Dark Knight world. And, you know, movies like Skyfall, Bond movies, this movie, everybody was chasing that trend of making things edgier, darker, you know, so this movie definitely had that. There's a bug in my Another one.
I just heard right in my ear. Things laying eggs in my ear. What were we talking about?
It was Spider-Man.
Oh my goodness.
The one thing I don't appreciate about this franchise is that it was marketed as the untold story, the thing that we were, you know, his parents and like these different origins of like
Right.
Sinister Six,
Yeah.
and none of it went anywhere. So, literally goes nowhere.
We're gonna get into that in the cons in 2 seconds, but another standout is Dennis Leary.
Yes,
An
yes.
excellent Captain Stacy.
Dennis Leary actually was a fan favorite when these movies came out too, and he even said that he was super into it when he comes back in the second one as like the ghost of himself. He's like, if they can keep writing me in, he's like, I'll come back and play him as much as
Yeah.
I can because I love playing the character. Definitely a standout in this movie. It was just nice to see like something fresh. Even though they gave us the same origin story. It was at least done in a way that felt a little bit different.
The
It's
spider
very
bite
familiar.
was weaker. The spider bite was weaker, but I did
Yeah.
like how heightened his senses were when he did transform. When he's on the subway, he sees the sweat of the bottle, and he's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I appreciated how fast he was.
Yeah.
He was super quick. Like I could picture that dude just like. You're like he's almost like Batman Begins. Like, where are you? Like, I
Yeah.
just picture a guy like jumping from wall to wall and climbing walls, and it was actually kind of scary.
And I know this movie gets a lot of hate for his suit in this. Me personally, I like it.
I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I don't prefer it, but I don't mind it.
It was more realistic, like you said. Like they tried showcasing that he made it out of like sunglasses, this different like, you know, cloth that he was getting from these different places, ordering these different things online. And I remember the first reveal of it was in that teaser trailer, which I got so hyped about because it reminded me a lot of the game Mirror's Edge.
Yes.
Like a POV, like
Yep.
you're jumping from building to building, and it just showed Spider-Man running across rooftops.
Rooftops and everything.
And then he swings over to this glass building, and it shows him, and then she says, "The Amazing Spider-Man." I remember being so excited for that.
But then, like a lot of people were like, as soon as he lands, you get a closer up of the suit. You're like, what in the Sam Hill? Like a lot of people did not like that suit.
A lot of people say it looks like a basketball.
It does actually. The textures it does. Moving into the cons, you talked about it before. The Oscorp mystery, the whole evil corporation with Peter Parker's parents being like the snitches that were like on the run because they
Yeah,
were
yeah,
exposing this truth, and that was a cool angle. But it just in the whole franchise it just goes nowhere. Even in the first movie, it's like okay, I guess they planted the seeds, and I'm intrigued, but
They don't go anywhere with it.
It doesn't go
at least in
anywhere.
the first movie.
the whole franchise
And the
whole
second one,
franchise.
even the second one, like
we're gonna talk about it in the
they
second one.
explore
but-
it a little bit more, but it ultimately leads nowhere.
I
and
mean,
the whole franchise gets canceled.
Granted,
for
we
it.
didn't get a third movie. Maybe it would have explained
There
it
was supposed,
then.
I remember there was supposed to be 4 movies. It was confirmed. He had said he had 4 movies ready to go.
That was one thing that I was just like, this seems like such a huge plot point. It's just spinning its wheels. Like it's not going anywhere. I was like, I'm intrigued. I want to see maybe because in the comics, aren't they like agents, shield agents or something like that?
I don't really
Like
care
there's
about.
a Elseworld story where I don't care either way.
No, I think it's even canon. It's in Amazing Spider-Man. There's like a period where like Mark Bagley came on and stuff, and they did like the story of Richard and Mary Parker, and I just don't care about it. I really don't. It's
Yeah.
like I think it's less is more in that.
I think the weakest aspect of this movie is that Indian dude.
Irfan Khan.
Kind of like Osborn's errand boy is just like
Yeah.
Norman Osborn is dying.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand a word the guy was saying. Entire
He was in
movie.
Jurassic World.
He
too.
phones it in. It's horrible.
You don't like him?
Not at all.
Well, he's dead, so how does that make you feel?
About as good as his acting was. Flatline.
Damn. For what he's in, like obviously I'm joking. He's not the greatest actor, but like in his country, he's like well known. My wife loves him.
He's a good personality, I guess.
Yeah. He's kind of charming. He's got this charm about him. But again, like his whole like subplot with Norman Osborn dying and the whole like hype about Norman Osborn needing this stuff, and then it's forcing the Lizard to make this cure. Like it just kind of
There's a lot of moving parts.
there's a lot of things that are in the movie that aren't in the movie. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yes.
it's all talked about off screen, so there's no real substance to it. You just told it, and then they move on to the next thing. I kind of like wanted to see more about that with like Norman Osborn. Like they like kind of built him up as this threat.
That was also another reason why
it's just barely hinted at in this one.
the Lizard does what he does. Obviously, he's got the amputated arm, you know, and he's searching for a cure and all this, and he's funded by Oscorp, and he's kind of like pushed to the corner to become like a mad scientist. Like, I got to inject myself, otherwise I'm not going to get defunded. Like the stakes, he was like desperate.
It's similar to how Willem Dafoe in the first one's like, 2 weeks. You know,
He's backed into a corner.
He's backed into a corner. He's got 2 weeks, otherwise Oscorp will be dead, and he's got to like experiment on himself to fund this thing. Same thing here with Dr. Kurt Connors. He actually tested on himself, and we see that like for a while it's working with that nasty gooey arm, that little like sourdough looking thing, whatever the
slimy arm.
Yeah. Like,
that was very well done.
Play-Doh. Yeah, it was a good scene.
But it was so realistic that I was like, oh yeah, that's how it would be.
It was too raw.
You know that thing stinks.
The sun hasn't hit it. Yeah, it's all white like a baby's ass. And one thing I felt that was missing from this movie, and there was even a deleted scene about it. You see Dr. Connor's son, Billy, and I think that was a missed opportunity because they could have even used that as a stake for him to maybe like push his character arc as a villain. Like, we have your son. If you don't do this, make it more impactful for him instead of him just being like this mad scientist. I know you have a big issue with his plot in this movie.
Yeah, because he's such a charming actor, Reese Ifans, Greasy Thumbs, I call him. Greasy Thumbs. He's a charming actor, and the whole like first half of his character as Kurt Connors, I liked. But then once he becomes a lizard, that's when it really like fell flat for me. It's a very, even with the drawing I did for this review, it's such a hard character to make look
to convert,
believable. It's such an awkward kind of like, a lizard human being is a very difficult thing to do, honestly. So, I mean, it looked pretty decent. I don't know. I think once he becomes a lizard, he's just like cheeseball villain. Like, I'm seeking perfection with Peter Parker. He's like, he reminds me of the guy from Friends, Gary Oldman, freaking Commissioner Gordon, who's just like spitting on Joey the entire time. He's like, you have to enunciate, and that doesn't make you evil. It doesn't make you a better actor.
Feeble beings.
And I'm just like, this dude's spitting everywhere.
Yeah.
Like,
the one defense I'll have against that is that if you go back to the Lizard's first appearance, Steve Ditko and Stanley, his plan is literally to turn the world into lizards.
Yeah,
and I get it.
Doesn't
very
translate.
comic
It does not translate.
Yeah, but what else are you gonna do with the lizard in this movie? I love that one series got his lab coat on. Yes, which is a nice little callback to the comics and the cartoons. In this movie, like it's the same plot as the comic books. He wants to make people into lizards, but instead of being like stupid, this one he's like, I want to make them superior, like a superior
evolve.
race.
Yeah,
Humans are weak, like he says, weak, feeble-minded beings. He feels like he's growing to be perfection. He says in this movie. So I will defend his plot in this one.
No, I understand it, but just in execution, it does not translate. Like in a comic book, I'd buy it, and it's just very hard to grasp.
What I'm saying? A lot of people are like, it's stupid, but I'll tell you right, if you got hit right now with his gas and became a lizard, I would just be like, it's all fun and games until someone turns into a lizard, and then you're like, that's scary.
You got gills and scales.
And even the cop, he's like, and he's like, his tongue goes out. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But like he's literally turning them into lizards. Like that's horrifying.
I just think it's just so comic booky and so out there that like live action realistic, because the whole movie takes itself
pretty grounded,
very seriously. Yeah. So I think that's the one thing that I was like, I'm having a hard time. Holding on to this. It does lend itself to like one of the coolest fight scenes of the movie when they're in the sewers, where Spider-Man is literally making a web and he's waiting for them like an actual spider, waiting for the movement, and like it's just two predators going at it. And that was a very cool sequence because this lizard's so strong, with such a cool physical threat. However, it was kind of weird because they got like a million Geico geckos walking throughout New York City. Have you ever seen a Geico gecko? in the city ever.
in Manhattan.
I've seen rats.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a lizard. So that was.
Did you see the gecko pulling the slice of pizza? The pizza route.
Something I could save 15%.
I love that scene too, where he's in the sewer. That's probably a standout scene for me too. I love it. Like, I love Spider-Man's just like got his mask up. He's playing like Snake 2 on his phone or whatever he's playing.
Right.
He's playing little ping pong on his phone. Like stuff like that I eat up when Spider-Man, like even the scene when he first becomes Spider-Man.
Yes.
And he's got his suit, he's on the top of there's that awesome shot where it's like the sunset, him in his suit, his backpack, and the Empire State Building. Yeah. And he's finally Spider-Man, and then he gets a phone call. He's like, "Oh, you need eggs, Aunt May? Organic? Yeah, I'll get it." Like
right.
Stuff like that. Like I eat stuff like that up when it comes to Spider-Man. Like because he's just a normal dude, daily life, but he's also this like iconic superhero. And that sewer fight is sick. Like I remember when his tail comes around, like that shot in the trailer where Spider-Man's crawling on the web and the tail comes around. I remember being like, "Oh, that's gonna be scary." Like, that's not good. And even when I first saw the lizard in this movie, especially on the bridge, when he's just like tearing it up and like throwing cars, I was like, that's a really big physical threat for him. And then when they're fighting,
death blow.
that's a death blow. When they're fighting in the high school and stuff, like every fight scene in this movie to me is so well done.
Pretty
honestly.
well done,
like,
yeah.
The bridge, the school, and the sewer, and then even the final fight on top of the building, trying to get like that bomb to stop.
Cool. Yeah, when he's up against the police, the lizard, he's got to get to the.
It's a solid movie. I really enjoy it.
That Williamsburg Bridge fight scene with the kid. Not even him facing a villain.
Yeah.
When he's got that moment with that kid, it's so touching. He's like, "Put on the mask; it'll make you strong." Like, that's what you want to see out of these superhero films or franchises, is the inspiration of, like a kid can buy into it and become more. It would make a difference in the world, honestly. So to me, that was one of the most impactful scenes of this movie, of Peter talking to the kid and him becoming Spider-Man, so to speak.
I made a joke with you before we were watching that scene, like the car's about to fall and the kid's got the mask on, and the car literally, he like drops the car and is going into the river. He's like, "Oh crap, my mask!" And like just pulls back the mask, and just lets the kid die. Like, "Oh crap, I can't let this car go down. I need my mask." The kid's just like falling into the river.
Right.
So I love that. I do love that scene on the bridge.
It's great.
And I know you hate Irfan Khan because you're you're a racist, but I do love that scene.
Yeah, my bad. I'm racist because I hate poor acting.
I just love when like everybody's in traffic and he's like, "What is going on here?" Like he's just like so much better than everybody. Like I loved him in that movie. It was like, it's like, can you please get out and check what's going on? I was like, there's a freaking lizard attacking us. But I did love that scene how Spider-Man like you tied up all the cars, you had them all up so that they're all hanging. The fire department's gonna have a hell of a time trying to get those up. My favorite scene though in this movie is when they have that fight in the school. Because I had always wanted to see that, like a villain going to Peter's school, and then in the science lab and stuff, like how he gets thrown in as Peter Parker and then comes out as Spider-Man. I loved that. I loved the cameo with Stan Lee.
I even liked how he was kind of like literally like a spider, like wrapping around.
That's what I say. That's what impacted me. Because I love Todd McFarlane. Like I said, I prefer skinnier, scrawnier, like awkward Spider-Man. So when I saw him, like how fast he was, just webbing up the lizard, going like climbing in and around his legs and stuff, and webbing him up, and then like just on the ceiling and getting away from him, I was like, that really stood out to me, and it's still impactful to me. So that's definitely my favorite scene in the movie, is that high school scene.
Final grade out of 10, I'm going to give this one, I'm going 7.5, only because it didn't really age too well. I do like the second one a little bit more, so I'll probably give it a... Well, I don't know. I don't know.
I'll probably go 7.5 too. I think 7.5 is where it needs to be. It's not,
on its own, I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Yeah. People aren't going to like my score for Amazing Spider-Man 2 because I truly cherish that movie. We both like that movie more than this one.
Yeah, I'd rather watch that one.
As much like garbage, like
it's just more fun.
It's a more entertaining, more fun movie. It moves a little bit quicker to me, and it's just like it's a fun movie. I really love the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
More colorful, more action. Yeah,
we'll talk about that. That's our next review coming up, is Amazing Spider-Man 2. But it was a blast watching this again. I couldn't wait to get back to rewatch the Andrew Garfield movies because he's my favorite. And if he shows up in Homecoming, I'm going to lose my mind. Let us know what you thought about The Amazing Spider-Man. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you mixed? Or was it just another rehash of the 2002 movie? What do you think? Let us know in the comment section below.
Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment below to join the discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!